And welcome back to part 2 of One-on-One, our continuing interview with the former mayor and parish president of Terrebonne Parish, Mr. Edward Bubby Lyons. And we appreciate you sticking around for another half hour. And last week we talked about everything that led up to you wanting to be mayor and eventually parish president. But when did you have it in your mind that, all right, I'm definitely going to run for mayor, this is what I want to do? And tell me what led up to that.
Well, I really, public service really had become a part of my life. I thought I could walk away from it as an elected official, but I always had that nagging thought in the back, it's not done yet. I want to try and do more, at least try and participate with others to do more. And so then for some reason or another, people started to, you always hear this about politicians, politicians, they ask you to come and ask you to run. They won't, and what have you. But in this case, it was the truth. I was bombarded with requests. Not that things weren't being done right or anything as far as the city of Houma was concerned. My predecessor was a great man, Charles Davidson. But I felt I had that desire to, and really, truly, it was a burning desire to try and still make a difference, and I had always had the thought in my mind that we ought to change the form of government. And I said, well, let me go see what the other side is like, from the police jury system and then the mayor and board of aldermen side. And finally, this entrepreneurial, I don't know how to really describe it, just got the best of me. So I decided, well, I'm going to run.
So you knew you wanted to change government even before you were mayor?
Way before.
I know later you would succeed, but this was burning in you at the time.
Well, I think it was, I just thought it was a good concept, the great concept, and I still think that way today. I think that's really, history will prove that that was the best thing that we ever did here. We were very, very unique. That's a little later story, but we were very, very unique in what we did as far as a form of government. There's no other one in the state of Louisiana, very few anywhere for that matter, but we had the tools to do it with.
For students that are watching, and a lot of teachers actually play these shows in their classes at the high school. So I want you to explain to them, if you could, a police jury government and a consolidated government type of government, and that way they'll understand what the change was all about.
Well, police juries, and then still in some parishes, a lot of parishes today, police juries still exist. That's the governmental authority to take care of the local government affairs as parish-wide. And of course the city government within the parish, there are municipal governments with mayors and board of aldermen or council people, etc. And there are different aspects of that even. But the ward system, one of the main things that changed the police jury system, as I recall, was the one man, one vote principle that came into being, which meant that the ward system, we had 10 wards in the parish. Well, there was a representative, a police juror from each ward, and in Ward 3, there were, because of the numbers, the population-wise, there were more police jurors from Ward 3, which is comprised of the city of Houma and the outlying area. Well, these police jurors represented each individual ward. Then the one man, one vote principle came into being, which meant that it had to be numbers, population-wise. So we had to, and I was part of, we had to form districts. The ward still existed, but from an election point of view, elected point of view, it was a district, created a district. So we created the different districts, and then population-wise, we created those districts as close as you possibly could to have the same amount of people being represented. And that was the major change, in my opinion, and changing everything, because it crossed ward lines, in essence, And it gave, the representative then had to look at a broader aspect of what they were trying to do than having just a select number of small people in a ward. And that really started it. And from a police jury system, and the police jury, each individual member in a police jury had as much power as the other. And the police jury president was just, he was elected, it was more of an honorary position and all that, conduct meetings.
Right.
And appoint committees. Basically, that's the only authority the police jury president had.
We'll be right back with more on HTV's One-on-One. Are you interested in great pay and excellent benefits? Enterprise Marine Services invites you to join them for a recruiting event by appointment only from August 22nd through the 25th. Enterprise is seeking experienced vessel wheelhouse personnel, licensed tankermen, and deckhands with valid TWIC cards and proper U.S. Coast Guard credentials. The Shipyard Division needs certified welders, electricians, and marine mechanics with experience. In addition, we have opportunities in operations and human resources. Call 985-858-6060 to see if you qualify for an interview. The most qualified applicants will be scheduled for interviews beginning August 22nd through August 25th. Again, that number is 985-858-6060. Experience competitive wages and great benefits, including medical, dental, and life insurance, 401k and retirement plans, holidays, and more. Call 985-858-6060 or visit careers.enterpriseproducts.com. That's careers.enterpriseproducts.com. Enterprise Marine Services is an equal opportunity employer.
Last year, 1,000 people in our area died without the gift of hospice.
We're out to change that.
Hospice is a Medicare benefit providing end-of-life medical and spiritual comfort for your loved one in their final months.
And Haydell Memorial Hospice is the only locally owned hospice provider. Our goal is to make the transition peaceful and comfortable for our patient and their family. Haydell Memorial Hospice, completing the gift of life.
What are we having for lunch?
The 10-piece combo, half regular, half boneless, original hot with fresh cut seasoned fries, homemade ranch, and a nice cold Coke. How about you?
New glider sandwiches.
The what?
New glider sandwiches. Perfectly delicious fillets of 100% white meat, sauced in my choice of 9 mouth-watering flavors, served on a freshly baked yeast roll.
I'll have what she's having.
The new glider sandwiches, only at Wingstop.
I remember some pretty heated debates on consolidation of government. This was not an easy process for you or for the city at that time. This was a dogfight, wasn't it?
Well, I don't know if you could describe it as a dogfight, but it was tough, and rightfully so. You know, we were operating for, since we had a parish and a city in a certain way. And when you stop and think about it, and to change and to consolidate this, abolish the mayorship, abolish the city government, abolish the police jury system, combine the leadership into the whole parish, and to, it was tough. It was very, very tough. And I understood that. I knew that. And when I ran for parish president for the first presidency, I understood that. And I knew I was going to be having a difficult time. And I did. I had a terrible time the first year. I really did. Because, well, stop and think. We had 9 former police jurors that were reelected to a 15-man body. And that's a pretty strong majority. Right. And if a lot of them didn't like the idea, they felt good about what they were doing, and rightfully so in one respect. But to make that kind of a change, it took time. Now, everybody understands it. The first year, and I had to really be careful, because that charter that we had adopted, the people had adopted, just like in any law that's written, have some, it could establish controversy. And normally it takes the courts to really determine what that charter is in a lot of respect. But we never did that. But in the charter it said that if the council so desired, they could call an election to go back. That happened in St. Tammany Parish. They went from a police jury system to a president councilmatic form. People, they were constantly fighting and and so they eventually went back before the people, and the people scrapped it. But I was afraid that that might happen with us, and so it was very, very difficult. Now that's politics to the nth degree.
I remember learning a lot. I was young, but I remember watching the sides, I guess, posture for position. What was it like? We saw you in the public at that time at the meetings, and like I always said, you always acted like a gentleman. You would get ruffled, but in a gentleman way. But what was it really like behind the closed door when y'all were posturing and trying to see where the other side stood? There had to be some very tense moments for you.
That's true, they did have, but looking back, I served with some very good people, regardless what side you are, how you felt and everything, because I really truly believe that everybody that I served with had the same interest that I had to do the public good. Since my first day in office in 1968 to when I left in 1988, I truly believe that. Where the problem came in is how to go about it. Basically, that's what it was. And who had the authority to do what?
So it was a procedure thing.
It was a procedure thing. And I said, well, the way this thing is setting up, has been set up, I have the authority, it's my responsibility and duty to do certain things administratively. And the council saying maybe, no, we want to retain that authority, you can't do this. And so it was that kind of, it was a tough situation.
Who were some of the players on the other side? I probably remember a few, but just for the audience, who were some of the other components of this whole thing?
Oh, Alan Bomberland, I remember. Alan and I were constantly at odds with how things maybe had to run, but he knew what he was doing. He was always one of the better prepared people going into a meeting, I thought.
He was determined and shrewd from what I could remember.
Mr. Boudreau, from J.D. Boudreau, who became the council chairman, Barry Bomberland, who had been an alderman. Let's see, I could go, but anyway, we had 15. Mr. Dewey, Charles Dewey. It was, I could go on down the line and stop and think about it. I could remember them all. And they were very, 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 they knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing. And as it turned out, the government was strengthened in that first year or two, and it happened. But I went through some trying times, Martin, since you brought it up. And they did too. They did too. Because it took a lot to change, as I said, a system that had been in existence since the beginning of time. But right now, reduced the size of the council to 9. Now that was a step in the right direction.
One thing I learned, I guess as the years have progressed, and covering these early meetings that y'all had, there would be some people that they sure wouldn't hide their feelings. They would come out, tell you exactly how they felt in a public forum. It would get after you, you would maybe get after them, but it was in a way that I think a lot of people could appreciate. And then when it was all over, now maybe this was a facade, but when it was over, to me, it seemed like there was still a little tension, but it was over.
That's true.
The meeting was over. Let's move on to the next issue.
That's the only way government can operate. That's the only way the Senate, the House of Representatives, the legislature, that's the only way it can operate, because if you would draw sides and then live with that and have that constant feeling of animosity or what have you, it doesn't work. In order for it to work, it has to do exactly the way you just described. People have to realize what they're there for and why they're there for, and respect the other person's thoughts, etc.
As a public servant, how did you, some people have not been able to do this over the years. Some have been able to do it. When you get in office and you truly want to serve, then it almost becomes a self-serving thing. They keep getting reelected, their power grows, it becomes, they're not serving anymore, they want to be served. you were able, through the whole process, to serve the public. How did you keep that even keel? I want to know the secret to that.
Well, thank you. That's a compliment. By always remembering why you were there, by always remembering why you were elected, and by not gaining any type of mistrust with the public. The public is more astute than most politicians, I believe, give them credit for, because there's that silent, watchful eye, somehow or another, that's always focusing on what is happening. You never hear from them, maybe, but it's there. And to me, to violate a trust of what you swear to do, to me, is just what I just never thought about it. I just, and keep it in mind that my business was to be the parish president or the mayor and not enhance my finances from it or my power from it and what have you. But it's how you believe and how you feel.
Who was your favorite, looking back, who was your favorite, and I'm going to make this a two-part question. Who was your favorite person that you like to work with, maybe in an amicable way? And then who was your favorite foe that you like to get after it with?
When you talk about favorites, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, now you got to remember, if I'm going to name a favorite foe, it's going to be a favorite with some thinking that, respect and what have you.
Absolutely.
My favorite that I worked with, I had several. That's a very, very tough question. I really had several people, because I had such a, when I was a police jury president, I had people like Bobby Mormon, Kenneth Watkins, Mr. Dewey, Royal Pellegrin. I don't want to leave anyone out, Al Sinek. But these people were there, I believe, truly to serve. And one thing that I remember, and I'm sort of evading this to get to, but anyway, one thing that I remember in those days, that maybe not as much later, was the fact that once you shook hands on something and you wanted a vote of something and you said, would you support me on this? And you were told right quick if they couldn't or they wouldn't. Mm-hmm. Okay? But if they did say yes, you could put it in the bank. You could put it in the bank. And I think some of that type of thinking has changed. I hate to name just one person, but that's difficult, really and truly, because I enjoyed being, after the feathers were ruffled and everything, I just enjoyed being part of the whole system.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with more on HTV's One-on-One.
Did you know that there are more than 180,000 amputations annually in the United States? The majority of those are preventable. If you have pain in your legs or other symptoms that suggest a problem, you'll be seen immediately at any of our locations. CIS is one of the largest, most advanced facilities in the South with an international reputation for treating peripheral vascular disease and preventing amputations. Call us before you amputate.
Together a crew of top specialists, and you can do amazing things. Cardiac care at TGMC. It all begins here.
Hi, I'm District Attorney Joe Waits Jr. Every day we help businesses like this collect on bad checks.
Thanks, Joe, for helping us get our checks. Joe Waits gives us all our money.
Thanks, Joe, for getting our check.
I'd like to thank Joe Waits and his staff for doing a wonderful job collecting our NSF checks.
I'm District Attorney Joe Waits Jr. If you're issued a bad check, we can help.
What do you miss the most about serving the public? And not that you've ever really been out the public eye. I still watch you when I see you in a public setting, you can still work a room pretty good in a very subtle and casual way, which some people hate to do, but I think you enjoy people, so you do that. But what do you miss the most about it?
The desire to serve. It's still in me now, if I'd be honest. It's still in me. I attempted to again and wasn't successful, but still in all, I miss. There's a tremendous feeling, at least with me, of self-satisfaction, of performing a task, of doing what I felt was best, in my opinion, and how to govern locally. That self-satisfaction feeling really what makes public service an elected official, I guess, the most promising thing or the best thing. I miss that. I'm retired and I can't do much now and what have you, but as I said, I had a tremendous amount of self-satisfaction, of accomplishment. I can go back as the mayor, some of the things that we did, the men that, by the way, there's only one left that I noticed the other night. Harold Appere was an alderman. And
he's the lone wolf, huh?
Well, yeah, that's right. He's been there a while, but I remember when he was brand new, and it was just enjoyable working with him. The whole council, for that matter, Ray Marcello. These people just had nothing but, well, I'll tell you, Everett Este, he's deceased now. Earl Hartman was the first black alderman here. I worked with him. Barry Baumeland. But I felt like that we accomplished in a very, very short period of time a tremendous amount of good in regards to what we were supposed to do as far as sewage and drainage and garbage collection and all these things, you know. And it was the same way with the parish government. No, but to answer your question, I guess it's that self-satisfaction that I don't know. I was in business and I had a self-satisfaction out of that, I accomplishing something. But public service to me was just part of me. It was part of my life.
Would it be fair to assess your life in government in a sentence that would say the easy road is not always the best road?
Oh, that's true. That's very true. Because the easiest thing would be to be complacent and feel that the public is satisfied, that everything that they feel that everything you can do, that there's no better way. The easiest thing would be just to be complacent and not do anything. But as my old philosophy was, that things that remain the same, you can't. I mean, in other words, you've got to. One of the things I enjoyed, which brings to mind, I enjoy fooling with the utilities in the city, and most mayors dread that. Mayors that don't have utilities, they would shy away from that because that's a politically unpopular thing if you've got to raise rates or what have you. But I enjoy trying to structure this and feel a very great sense of satisfaction and accomplishment by the utilities the way they are in the city of Houma today, maintaining our own electrical system and upgrading the gas system and what have you. That's a business all in itself.
As we close, what one word would capsulize your life as a child going through the Depression, as a young adult at Terrebonne High with others like Charlton Roseannes and others who were successful in office, and then through your marriage, time with your wife, then through your serving the public, and now through your retirement. If you had to, I know it's hard, but if you had to put it in one word that you would want others to see you as, what would that one word be?
As others see me as? Honest.
That would be a
with
word that would
conviction.
fit you to a T.
Thank you, Martin.
That would be, I mean, I've always,
Thank you.
I've had a lot of people on this show, and I admire a lot of people, but you have always been on top of the list, and it is through example that I say that, because every time I've seen you, you've been the same person. You haven't wavered off your path, and the word I use to describe you is gentleman.
Thank you.
And a lot of people still call you mayor, don't they?
A lot of people still do. It's entirely in Terrebonne Parish that don't think of the police jury president, that still refer to me or think of me as mayor. And I guess in the public mind, it's going to take decades before they realize the parish president's office was much higher than a mayor.
But it's easier to say mayor.
It's easier to say mayor, and it's and one thing about it, it comes with, you get the feeling of at least some thought of respect.
It is. That's exactly what it is. Well, I appreciate you joining us today, and thanks for coming into home. I know you come quite a bit, but we appreciate you stopping by in the studios here, and it's been a privilege.
Martin, it's been a privilege for me to do this. It's been truly a privilege, and give me an opportunity to convey still some of my thoughts about things. I could do this all day long.
It was fun.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.